Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivanadari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhupada Acharya Shrotar Shrimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Hare Krishna Namo Vishnupada Krishna Vishnaya Putale Srimad Bhakti Vikas Swami Namani Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Right, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 37. 36, huh? That's what I thought.
No, it is 37.
Almost got me there. Okay. Purushasya Mukham Brahma Satram Etasya Bahava Urvor Vaisho Bhagavata Padbyam Sudro Vyajayata Purushasya Mukham Brahma Satram Etasya Bhava Urvor Vaisho Bhagavata Padbyam Sudro Vyajayataha Purushasya Mukham Brahma Satram Etasya Bhavaha Urvor Vaisho Bhagavata. Padvyam Sudro Vyajayataha. Purushasya Mukham Brahma. Satram Etasya Bhahavaha. Urvor Vaisho Bhagavata. Padvyam Sudro Vyajayataha. Sorry, Vyajayata. Okay.
Purushasya mukham brahma Shatrametasya bhahavaha Satrametasya bhahavaha Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata Adhyam Shudro Vyajayata Padmyam Shudro Vyajayata
Purushasya mukham brahma
Purushasya mukham brahma
Satrametasya bhahavaha
Satrametasya bhahavaha
Urvo Vaishyo Bhagavataha.
Adhyam Shudro Vyajayata Purushasya mukham brahma Purushasya mukham brahma Satrametasya bhahava Satrametasya bhahava Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata Padmam Sudro Vijayata Padmam Sudro Vijayata Purushaya mukham brahma Purushasya mukham brahma Satrametasya bhahavaha Satrametasya bhahava Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata Padvyam Shudro Vyajayata Padvyam Shudro Vyajayata Purushasya mukham brahma Purushasya mukham brahma Satrametasya bhahavaha Satrametasya bhahavaha Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata Padvyam Shudro Vajayata Padvyam Shudro Vajayata
Purushasya mukham brahma
Purushasya mukham brahma
Shatrametasya bhava
Satrametasya bhahavaha
Urvor Vaisho Bhagavata
Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata
Parvam Sudro Vajay Parvam Sudro Vajayata
Padvyam Shudro Vajayata
Mataji's?
Purushasya mukham brahma Satrametasya bhava Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata Padmam Sudro Vajayata Purushasya mukham brahma Satrametasya bhava Urvo Vaisho Bhagavata Padmam Sudro Vajayata
Okay, word for word. Second. Purushasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mukham, mouth. Brahma is the Brahmanas. Kshatram, the royal order. Etasya, of him. Vahavaha, the arms. Uvaho, the thighs. Vaishyaha are the mercantile. Oh, men. Bhagavata are the personality of Godhead. Padbhyam, from his legs. Sudraha, the laborer class. Vyajayataha, became manifested. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, and the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Sudras are born of his legs. All living beings are stated to be the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and how they are so is explained in this verse. The four divisions of human society, namely the intelligent class, the Brahmanas, the administrative class, the Kshatriyas, the mercantile class, the Vaishyas, and the laborer class, the Sudras, are all different parts of the body of the Lord. As such, no one is different from the Lord. The mouth of the body and the legs of the body are non-different constitutionally, but the mouth or the head of the body is qualitatively more important than the legs. At the same time, the mouth, the legs, the arms, and the thighs are all components, competent parts of the body. These limbs of the body of the Lord are meant to serve the complete whole. The mouth is meant for speaking and eating. The arms are meant for protection of the body. The legs are meant for carrying the body, and the waist is meant for maintaining the body. The intelligent class in society, therefore, must speak on behalf of the body, as well as accept foodstuff to satisfy the hunger of the body. The hunger of the Lord is to accept the fruits of sacrifice. The Brahmanas, or the intelligent class, must be very expert in performing such sacrifices, and the subordinate classes must join in such sacrifices. To speak for the Supreme Lord means to glorify the Lord by means of propagating the knowledge of the Lord as it is, broadcasting the factual nature of the Lord and the factual position of all other parts of the whole body. The Brahmanas, therefore, are required to know the Vedas, or the ultimate source of knowledge. Veda means knowledge, and Anta means the end of it. According to the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is the source of everything, aham sarvasya prabhavaha. And thus the end of all knowledge, Vedanta, is to know the Lord, to know our relationship with Him, and to act accordingly to that relationship only. The parts of the body are related to the body. Similarly, the living being must know his relationship with the Lord. The human life is especially meant for this purpose, namely to know the factual relationship of every living being with the Supreme Lord. Without knowing this relationship, the human life is spoiled. The intelligent class of men, the Brahmanas, are therefore especially responsible for broadcasting this knowledge of our relationship with the Lord and leading the general mass of people to the right path. The administrative class is meant for protecting the living beings so that they can serve this purpose. The mercantile class is meant for producing food grains and distributing them to the complete human society so that the whole population is given a chance to live comfortably and discharge the duties of human life. The mercantile class is also required to give protection to the cows in order to get sufficient milk and milk products, which alone can give the proper health and intelligence to maintain a civilization perfectly meant for knowledge of the ultimate truth. And the laborer class, who are neither intelligent nor powerful, can help by physical services to the other, higher classes, and thus be benefited by their cooperation. Therefore, the universe is a complete unit in relationship with the Lord. And without this relationship with the Lord, the whole human society is disturbed and is without any peace and prosperity. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Brahmano sya mukham asid bahur ranjanya kritaha. Om Agana Timananda Shagananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Manitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swabarantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishtamam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganaftam Vitam Tam Shajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Nalitam Shri Vishakam Vitam Sha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Bhutale Shrimante Bhakti Vikas Swaminiti Namani Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimante Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisheshi Sunivadi Paskatari Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Sudras are born of his legs. So, alrighty. So the verse previous to this, I think it's a verse, what was it? Yeah, so the verse previous to this states that the great philosophers imagine the complete planetary system in the universe are displays of the different upper and lower limbs of the universal body of the Lord. So it's not like these. So like when these great rishis and sages, they see the universe. So different people, according to different mental capabilities, they look at something and they see things differently. It's very simple to understand. You know, like if someone is very much knowledgeable of like herbs and things like that and plants, you know, they look outside and they see so many different herbs and so many, oh, this is used for that, this is what this flower is, it grows in this season, it grows in that. Someone's, you know, well acquainted with growing vegetables or fruits. And, you know, you sow the seed at this time, and then this sprouting, this little creeper is a potato, and then this is a carrot, and after so many weeks, you know, the marigold comes up like that. So they have like the knowledge and able to see things. So rishis and those who are intelligent and they see through the Veda, or what is this, Shastra Chakshus, they see through Shastra. When they look at the universe, and the universal body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they're able to understand the different parts of it and see how that these different, what they represent. So particularly in this verse, it's speaking of the four varnas. So this Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaisya, Shudra. So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Vanyamaya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasa. So that Krishna, he created this four system of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. And so this Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudras, these four divisions in society, they're intrinsic to society. It's not something that can be cut out. They're eternally existing. Because sometimes there's the idea, especially in the communist era, the perfection of communism is just having like one class. There's one, you know, class of human beings, which, you know, I don't know if it's some perfect class or whatever. But this, maybe Marx wrote about it and things, but I don't remember so much. But Marx is in his Communist Manifesto. I mean, he was really pushing the idea that that you have the I mean, I forget the exact use they use, a proletariat, and then something started with a B. Bourgeoisie. So he was making the point that, oh, this class is exploiting the lower class and making so much money and profit, so therefore they have to be overthrown. And anyways, so how that history goes is, you know, so they write that book, and then eventually the Tsar is overthrown in Russia. I'm forgetting all the details, but anyways, Lenin is established in power, and I believe he has a stroke or a heart attack, and then Stalin takes over. And so Stalin's idea was to create, I mean, the philosophy is to create, you know, one class society. But even in that system, with Stalin taking power of the Soviet Union and creating that and establishing that, there was two classes when you look at it at a glance: the ruling class and the class that is ruled. You know, and in different societies they have, you know, like that. So even though they tried to establish, you know, a one class thing, anyways, it's called a yuga. There's, you know, it's nonsense. But so they tried to do that, but you can't, because if you want to create one class, then someone has to rule that one class. Someone has to make the rules and say, okay, this is what constitute one class. You know, everybody gets paid the same, whether you're a doctor or you're cleaning trash in the street, or, you know, you're a car mechanic, or whatever your occupation is. You get paid the same and the same amount of respect and whatever and like that. But it doesn't make any sense, because how can you have just one single class, because even in those different fields, it requires different levels of intelligence just to engage in that. And it's not all people are equal. And that's a problem. That's Marxism is trying to do that. And society also, they say, well, everything is just equal, that, you know, that don't discriminate and don't, you know, don't, there's no, there's no getting around it. Some people are just smarter than others. So those people who are not so intelligent, to put them in work or pursuits that require a lot of intelligence is just frustrating for them. Just like if we were all had to go and sit in some nuclear chemistry class, most of us probably wouldn't be interested in that. And if we were forced to study that day after day, week after week, month after month. Like I know growing up in school, like I was forced to take chemistry and biology, and I wasn't really interested in those sciences so much, and forced to take them, and the periodic table of elements, it was so annoying, and then this is the gases, and then this and that, I forget most of it. But it was just so annoying, and being forced to study that, and then I forgot what it was, but then we had to do like, I think it was like chemical equations or something like that, and it was just so annoying to do. And then other two, I remember too in classes, like in mathematics, you know, I excelled in that and liked that a lot. And then there was kids in the class that didn't, they hated it and they struggled with it. And there's so many things. We have our areas of expertise and we have our areas that we just plain right suck in. So that's natural in society. But, you know, just due to poor fundamental knowledge or misplaced idealism, different individuals in society, they have their own, what is this? Is it stated? They're on the mental platform, mano-retena. And so they think on the mental platform that society would be great if sense gratification was just like this. That, you know, if we had our sense gratification, if, you know, everything is one class and there's no religion and there's no God because, you know, God is, you know, that's for a lower kind of class of people. Or if, you know, this race was just kicked out of the, this particular nation, then this would be a perfect society. Or if there's no communism in the world, then it would be a perfect society. Or if you could just make as much money as you want. So every different nation has their own mental concoction about how society can be perfect. And so the brahmanas are the intelligent class. They're supposed to know, well, actually, the perfection of society is to be engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there's that verse, Dvija Pumstir Harashtrisam. It just slipped my mind as it was coming out. Does anybody know it's in the second chapter of the first canto? I forget it. Some Siddhi Hari Toshanam. Yeah. So that the perfection of all varnas and ashrams is to be engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Kshatriyas, they have that knowledge, and the Brahmanas, they have that knowledge. And then they give that knowledge to the Kshatriyas. And then the Kshatriyas rule according to that proper outlook, which is in line with the Vedas. So this idea of one class, anyways, we hear about that in the Bhagavatam, that there was one class in the Satya Yuga, the Paramahamsa class. But even from what I've understood in the Bhagavatam and what I've read, Dhruva Maharaj was ruling during the time of Satya Yuga. There was still seems to be a distinction of different classes also, because Dhruva Maharaj was a Kshatriya, and he plainly says that. And his father, Uttarapada, was a Kshatriya also, and he was born of Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu also was, he's a ruler, he's a Kshatriya. So there seems to be distinction, even as Paramahamsas. They come down and they preach. And even in the spiritual world also, there's seemingly a distinction. Not that in the spiritual world it's all just one big, just there's difference, there's variety. In Vaikuntha even there are animals, and there's a distinction between an animal and a human form. Anyways, that's a whole other discussion. So there's always a separation and distinction. And so when there's separation and there's distinction and there's different responsibilities for different individuals, that means there's different duties and different things required of individuals. So every part in society, Prabhupada opens up the purport by saying all living beings are stated to be parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. And how they are so is explained in this verse. So when a living entity is not on the fully spontaneous, God-realized platform, everybody has a duty, but due to one's conditioning, what is this? Guna karma vibhagasa. So there's guna and karma. So we're born in a particular body, and with particular parents and a particular nation and all these little intricate, detailed things due to activities that we created in a past life. And that's arranged by the supreme will of the Lord. Karmana Daivanyatrena. So we're given a particular body and we're born in a certain land and we have a certain psychological outlook and mental function and all those things due to previous activities. And so then this previous activities, then we're born and then we have different qualities. So this Kshatriya, Vaishya, Brahmana, and Sudra. But generally in the age of Kali, it's all mixed up. So you don't, it's that's what is it? There's a verse, but everybody in the age of Kali is a Sudra. Kalo Sudra Sambhava. So in the age of Kali Yuga, most people are Sudras or lower than Sudras. But the Srila Prabhupada wanted to institute a Varnashram college, which was a school which taught people how to, be a Brahmana, be a Kshatriya, be a Vaishya, be a Sudra, how to live in this society, be God conscious, and carry out one's duty. Because dharma or duty is very important in the Vedic society, and also is very important in Krishna consciousness. Krishna does say in the end of Bhagavad Gita that, was it sarva dharma parityajya, just give up, surrender unto me and give up, dharma and this and that. But to give up dharma, see, we may give up some small things in order to please Krishna. We may tell a lie in certain circumstances in order to get into a spot to distribute books. We may put in the application that we're not a religious organization or something. Or, we may have some prasadam and someone may ask if it's vegan and we may say, yeah, it's vegan just to get them to take it or whatever. We may do different things like that. But we should surrender and give up things which are an obstruction to Krishna consciousness. Just like, for instance, it's mentioned in the Shastras, for a sannyasi to associate closely with a woman is a dharmic. And so, anyways, I just crossed into big territory. So it's generally recommended it's a good principle for the announced order of life to be careful in one's dealings with the opposite sex, with women. And so to be, think, well, I'm above that, or even Srila Prabhupada, he stated many times he was above that. He did follow that to teach others. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also used one of his associates, Chota Haridas, to teach that principle that his associates don't intimately mix with women. So one may think that he's beyond that. And Krishna says, surrender dharma, and I'm a sannyasi, but I'm above this and that. But the dharma actually is meant to protect an individual. Is meant to help keep one on the path of religiosity. And so we should be careful of just, following duties in the sense of just doing things in Krishna consciousness without really, just doing things for the sake of doing them. But the different rules in the Varnashram ashram are meant there to protect us. Because if an individual is not on the highest platform, and then he's thinking, well, I can, freely mingle with this, that, and the other thing with the opposite sex, then that will constitute animal life, and there will be a fall down or an obstruction from Krishna consciousness. So we follow dharma and the rules and regulations of the Shastra, and that protects us. And that also gives the intelligence room in which to make proper spiritual advancement. So the different orders have different duties and different functions in society. And in today's society, because there's no sense of duty or obligation, just like all the different orders, they all work together. The Sudras are helping the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas do different things, and the Vaishyas are growing food for everybody and are protecting cows. And this milk is very important. It helps develop finer brain tissues, as Srila Prabhupada stated in purports. And the Kshatriyas protect. So all these, and the Brahmanas give knowledge. So all these things are needed and very important in society. And so when one particular part of the order just does whatever they want or neglects to follow one's duty, then chaos is reached, actually. And we see that today, that when one class of society, generally it's like something like, airport workers or bus drivers or something like that, they go on strike. You don't really hear so much about whatever, big bankers going on strike. Usually the people that, are getting screwed over the most. So the bus drivers go on strike and it's a big thing. And then it's like so many days the bus systems aren't going and what to do and this and that. And it just causes a chaos in society, or the airport workers are going on strike or whatever it is. There's so many different things going, I don't know. So many things go on and, you could read the news unlimitedly. So then whatever, some class goes on strike and it's a big inconvenience. For 30 days, the bus drivers have gone on strike and they're standing outside and they refuse to, drive buses. And then usually what does it boil down to? They generally want more money, more rights, and more, whatever. They want a better dental care plan or something like that. And so I don't know if that, anyways, I don't know the conclusion of the strikes, if they actually get what they want, or then the people, they just, after some time, their bank account starts to dwindle, then they just have to get back to work and, whatever, they were already a bus driver for 10 years, so might as well just get back into it. So it's, so it causes a chaos in society. When we read the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vedic literatures, we don't hear or see, at least I can't think of anything immediately, there may be something there, of in Vrindavan or in Dwarka or Ayodhya, of the residents going on strike and refusing to do their duties, do for different reasons. There was kind of, not so much of a strike, but there definitely was some chaos in Vrindavan when Krishna left, but that's a whole other story, and that's not due to sense gratification. So we don't hear about strikes so much. So, and it's the duty of the king actually to make sure the citizens are properly taken care of and that things are going on properly, that society is functioning in the right way. So each part of the Varnas, they have something to offer to society. And but Srila Prabhupada makes the point in the purport that, what does he say exactly? But that of all the parts, the head is most important because the head, the Brahmanas, they give the transcendental knowledge, the spiritual knowledge. So we can see, we can live, realistically speaking, if, if we get our leg chopped off, which there are people that get their legs chopped off or cut off or bitten off by sharks or something, or someone loses an arm or part of an arm, life can more or less go on in a somewhat annoying way. And if we lose our stomach, I don't really know. I was thinking about that. I would think that if you lost your stomach, you would be done because you couldn't eat. But maybe there's somebody that's going around without a stomach. But I haven't really met anybody I don't know if anybody knows the man who has no head who is going around in society. Maybe there's some, something going like that going on because there's always, brain, no, but just some head, an actual head. There's like tales of that and like whatever, like headless horsemen and things. Oh, the chicken, huh? Oh, okay, there you go. The headless chicken that lived for a year. So, anyways, we don't really hear so much about, there was that one guy, he had no head and he's still going on, like we said, maybe some ghost or something. Generally, if you lose your head, then you die. That's the general system. Unless you have some special benediction or something, or whatever. We see that Daksha, his head was replaced with the head of a goat. So he, anyways, but he didn't want to live like that, and that was a punishment. to have a goat head. So anyways, they're not doing that yet in society for all their advancement, replacing people's heads with different heads of animals. So the head is considered most important. And so the head gives the spiritual knowledge. And the knowledge is important, actually. So knowledge, I was actually thinking about this. Knowledge is given by all classes of men in some degree or another, actually. For instance, if a Sudra is engaged in some specific duty or something, let's say for a Vaishya, a Sudra is collecting, I don't know, he's collecting wood for him so he can, burn it in his house in the winter. Or he's going around and, whatever, pulling the cows or something like that, or like bringing hay. So if a new Sudra comes, he may say, hey, pull the hay like this, it's quicker, or do like this, it's quicker, it's easier. He may give some instruction. The Vaishyas may give some instruction too, that. And that's there, I forget, I think Karaha, no, I don't remember. Maybe there's an old, it's like Bengali slokas, and they mention that, that if you, anyways, they're like slokas, but if you plant the crop at this time, then you'll get a good result. If this happens in this month, if the rains come at this time, then your crop will be destroyed. So it's like kind of like folklore, or something, not like folklore, but, I don't know, wise sayings that they understood. And so there's knowledge in that. And then the Kshatriyas too, you rule like this. And then there's a whole art to wielding weapons and fighting. And like that. And especially too, the fighting was much more sophisticated. And as we understand from the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, for instance, I don't think that they would hit below the waist. Because you see they have the armor on top, but they just have like some dhoti or something. If you see like a picture of like Bhishma and Krishna and things like that. And if an opponent was fighting and their chariot broke, and you were fighting on your chariot, you would get off the chariot and fight with them. So it was like a whole sophisticated science in which they fought, and they fought according to rules and things. It wasn't just like nowadays that just like, there's some science to warfare, but, generally people just go out, just shooting the gun off and trying to, mow down whoever they can. And then also warfare too. We understand the Battle of Kurukshetra was fought outside the cities. It was away from civilians. Nowadays, people just blow up whatever, kill innocent people. Also in the war, it was just men that were fighting. It wasn't men and women, which is very much different from nowadays. And so there was rules and things. So the Kshatriyas, they had that knowledge. And so that knowledge was instructed. But the Brahmanas, they had access to maybe the most valuable knowledge, and also the knowledge that they had to too. So because they had the highest responsibility of giving the spiritual knowledge, and also the Brahmanas would learn, Jyotish, astrology, and Ayurveda, different things like that. And then they could also learn the military science and teach to others. The most important aspect of that knowledge was actually the transcendental knowledge, which Krishna himself actually, he makes the point in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that he establishes that knowledge. I'll just read a couple verses, but he explains with this verse. So, evam parampara praptam iram rajasya vidu sakalene mahata yoganasta parantapa. So Krishna explains that he taught this transcendental knowledge in the chain of kings. And so when that knowledge was broke, so from time to time that knowledge is broken, and then he reestablishes that transcendental knowledge. So Krishna himself finds the transcendental knowledge so important that he sees importance in protecting it and establishing it and in maintaining it. And also, too, it's expressed in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 9th canto that Krishna says that the Brahmanas are so dear to him, actually, that they are his heart. Also, the devotees, he explains like that. So the transcendental knowledge is actually very important to Krishna. And that's because that by the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Jiva and our relationship to him, the actual principles of pure devotional service, when that knowledge is, that knowledge is so important because that's the whole point of the material world, actually, is for one to awaken one's Krishna consciousness and to become situated in the proper situation, which is Nityasiddha Krishnadas. So that's the whole, and Krishna explains, well, Prabhupada made the point in the purport, that the point of the Vedas, that the culmination of all knowledge, or Veda is Vedanta, and that culminates in devotional service. So what is this? Krishna says, Vedanta krit Veda vid eva chaham. So by the Vedas I am to be known. So the whole point of knowledge is to come to the platform of understanding that I am a servant of Krishna, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I should engage in pure devotional service unto him. So that's, and all these Vedic literatures and Srimad Bhagavatam and the spiritual master and the devotees and the whole International Society for Krishna Consciousness and all Vaishnavas are meant to teach that point and to help us show by practical example of what it means to be a pure, unalloyed devotee of Krishna. Because in the material sphere, you may get some material knowledge or whatever. And it may be proper, it may not be proper. Just like you may go to a doctor and he may say, oh, you do this, do that, and you'll get better. But you may not get better. Or you take this medicine, you do that, you'll get better. Or whatever, you get this car, it'll be the best car. And then the car breaks down after a couple of weeks or whatever, in the shop for so many days. Or whatever. You may get so much material knowledge on something and then it just may not work out. But if you get the spiritual knowledge and you practice the process of Krishna consciousness will always work. There's no doubt about it. That will maybe it work under these conditions. There are certain conditions for Krishna consciousness to work. There's rules and regulations expected to be followed. Just like there's no meeting, no gambling, no intoxication. There's different things that the acharyas give in order to help us to grow up quicker in Krishna consciousness. So those things are there. But if we follow the process of Krishna consciousness, it will work. There's no doubt about it. There's no like, well, maybe it work or maybe it won't work, or I don't really know, or maybe it won't work for me. Krishna consciousness works in all times, in all places, in all circumstances, for everybody. And that's why it's supreme, and that's why it's amazing, and that's why it's the best, and that's why it's the most ecstatic. And the process of Krishna consciousness and devotional service is so great that the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself comes down in order to relish that process. And the acharyas are teaching that. Specifically, the path of pure devotional service. That is what that's what we're aspiring for. That is what is being taught in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because there is mixed devotional service. But we don't want that. We don't want to engage in Krishna consciousness and at the same time enjoy the material world. Because what's the point in that? Enjoying the material world. How many times have we joined the material world for? What is that? What's that? How long is that? Oh, almost unlimited. There's no end to it. It's infinity. So we can write down, whatever. They have the debt calculator in Times Square, and then also you can look at it online. And the numbers just keep going up and up and up. So we can look at that and think, well, that's how long I've been enjoying in the material world for, unlimited amounts of time. And do I feel satisfied yet? No. Okay, so let me keep trying. So it's an insane proposal. But we can see that just by coming a little bit in contact with Krishna consciousness, by engaging in devotional service, so much satisfaction is there, so much happiness is there, so much ecstasy, so much promise is there. Krishna consciousness is, just like with this hankering and lamenting. So generally in the material world, someone is lamenting in the past, oh, I did this, I did that, I made that mistake. And then they're not, when in the future, things will be better. And right now, I'm not happy. So many things are wrong in my life. But in Krishna consciousness, when we look at the past, we think, wow, it was so amazing. It was so blissful. It was so ecstatic. We did this, we did that. We served Krishna in so many ways. And then in the present, we're so ecstatic and so happy because we're relishing the process of Krishna consciousness. And then in the same time, in the future, too, we look towards the future. We think how much greater it will be in the future because the ecstasy of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement just keeps increasing more and more. The scope is unlimited. Because in the material world, there comes a point where this scope becomes limited. Because then you just get to a certain age or whatever, or you get to a certain age where your brain doesn't work so well, and then people just start outdoing you, or maybe you're relying on your looks, charms, and beauties. But then comes an age where you get old, and then you're just ugly, and nobody cares about you, or whatever. You're so strong and so powerful, but time destroys everything in the material world. But time doesn't destroy the devotee's aspiration to keep serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like, we engaging in Krishna consciousness, and we, whatever. Maybe sometimes we pray that, to stick through Krishna consciousness this life and just make it through, and just, really give everything in our life this Krishna consciousness. But why just this life? Why not for the rest of eternity give everything to Krishna? Whatever we offer, we take initiation. This life, I'll take initiation. Why just this life? I was reading yesterday I should have brought it. I was thinking I should have brought it, but anyways, I didn't bring it. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was praying that life after life to be surrendered to the spiritual master, to have attachment to the Vaishnavas, to have attachment to Krishna, to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to the holy, to the Dham, to the holy sites, to the process of Krishna consciousness, to be attracted to pure devotional service. Why just this life? So those who are actually situated on the true transcendental platform, the Vaishnavas, they give this transcendental knowledge, and they implore to inspire us within the heart, and they disseminate this knowledge, and they make so many different plans and schemes to attract us to the Param Dhamma, to the transcendental abode of the Lord, which is eternal, which is our true occupational position. Because even in the material sphere, because we're eternal, we're looking for an eternal position. So we don't want a temporary position in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or the spiritual master. That, okay, Gurudev, I will serve you for 30, 50, 60 more years, and then that will be it. But we want to we're indebted to the spiritual master, and that's good, because then we always feel, well, we can never repay that debt. But we want to be eternally bankrupt and indebted in the service of the spiritual master and in Krishna and in Krishna consciousness. Because if we have that mood, and then that'll carry over into the next life, and then we'll be in a better position. So Krishna consciousness, we're trying to mold our consciousness in the proper way to be Krishna conscious, to become conscious of Krishna. Conscious of Krishna, to always think of Krishna, never to forget him, but to always be acting for Krishna's pleasure. Anukul yasya sankalpa, pradikul yasya varjana. So be always thinking, is this favorable for Krishna? Is this not favorable for Krishna? Is this favorable for my spiritual master? Is this not favorable for my spiritual master? In all aspects of life, to just be completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And maybe some people see that as fanatic, or it's too much. Don't be too Krishna conscious. You have duties of the world, you have this and you have that. But we have duties of the world, but even in those duties, is this favorable to my spiritual master? Is it not favorable? Is this pleasing to Krishna? Is it not pleasing to Krishna? Because we have to develop love for Krishna. We have to develop love for the spiritual master. We have to develop love for the devotees. And love can be a complicated emotion. It can, so many things there. And specifically in pure love, as we see by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, that there is sometimes not everything works out properly. But one who is in love, he is always thinking of his beloved, and thinking how to please him, and wanting to center his whole life on pleasing the one that he loves. So we should love the spiritual master, we should love the devotees, and we should mold our life in such a way that they will always be pleased with our actions, with our behaviors, with our word, with our speech. And if we're not on that platform, we should aspire to that. We should always be going up in Krishna consciousness. Not that we come to a plateau or whatever. I've reached the point in which I do not wish to surrender anymore. If we reach the point in which we don't want to surrender anymore to the process of Krishna consciousness, then there's another process and another sadhana which we can surrender into. Or maybe not so much of a sadhana. We can surrender to the schedule and regiment of the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Maya's program is, okay, whatever. You can sleep in as much as you like, and you can do what you want when you want, and then you can, that's the illusion. And then when actual reality comes and we approach this mirage in the desert, which is always just a little bit away, we find ourselves distressed, sad, heartbroken, angry, unfulfilled, tortured, traumatized, so many different words. There's endless words there. Disheartened, depressed, annoyed, there's so many different ways to describe, how an individual feels when he surrenders to the illusory potency of the illusory energy. But the biggest thing is that the individual feels cheated. And we see that, and we go out on book distribution, or we meet different individuals, and they just gave everything to the material world, the material life. And what do they have to show for it? They may have something to show for some time. And that's the thing, they have something to show for some time. But then it all vanishes, it all goes away. Krishna takes it away. So, and it's sad and it's unfortunate. And Haridas Thakur was explaining that there's so many different there's so many different living entities, and there's a concern. Well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was explaining that there's so many different living entities in the material world, some moving, some not moving. How are they going to get liberated? How are they going to come in touch with Krishna consciousness? And so that's why the holy name, Krishna consciousness, is for everybody. And so this material world, this material life is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It's horrible, it's nasty. So we don't want to aspire for that. So we don't want to stop surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We don't want to stop contemplating the orders of the spiritual master. We don't want to stop thinking about Srimad Bhagavatam or about the process of Krishna consciousness. We don't want to stop any of that. We want to keep going. And we want to increase more and more. And we want to have this, this like razor focus, intelligence, and just completely just like, we want to have tunnel vision of the Shastra. Sometimes it's, people, you got to be open-minded and accommodating and, all pervasive. Yeah, for preaching, we may make, we may be open and accommodating and helping and this and that. And okay, if you can't do this for that. But as far as going and executing the process of pure devotional service, we have to be like this, like it was described with Arjuna when he was going to shoot the arrow at the fish. So different people were asking, what do you see? I see, the trees and or whatever. I don't remember all the details, but the point is, I see this and I see that. Okay, don't shoot. You're not going to hit it. And then it was asked to Arjuna, and I just see like the point I'm supposed to shoot at, the eye of the fish or something, and say, okay, you shoot. So in Krishna consciousness, we have to be like that. We have to understand what the goal is at all particular points in time. And due to different circumstances, we may have to do this, we may have to do that, and whatever, just like, somebody may come and, whatever, the AC goes out, so we have to fix the AC, and what does the AC have to do with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and book distribution and Radha Krishna? Yeah, I don't know. What does that have to do with it? But it depends on one's attitude. Because if one has a proper attitude, then he'll see everything as in connection to the service of Sri Guru. That I am maintaining this temple. And I, whatever. It may not be a big philosophical thing that, well, I'm getting the AC fixed because, Radha and Krishna are cold on the altar or hot, and, I don't want to do that or whatever. Okay. So that, one may not think like that, but that mood has to be there of everything I'm doing is for the pleasure of the spiritual master. And that may not also be just a big open thing where one is constantly saying, whatever, I don't know. The lights are out in the temple, so I'm going to get them fixed for the pleasure of Sri Guru or whatever. One may not openly say so many things like that. But that mood will be there. And that'll be seen as one spends time with those pure devotees that are completely surrendered. Because it's still there's so many different things and avenues and aspects of pure devotional service, but we have to be surrendered, and so that spiritual knowledge, that's the main point that's given. The Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas, and it may not be whatever the one who is actually giving the transcendental spiritual knowledge. He may not be second initiated. We shouldn't be in the illusion thinking that just because someone has a thread, and doesn't have a thread, that they can't instruct me in Krishna consciousness. Or whatever, that, I may be a brahmachari and, I can't learn nothing from some senior Mataji because like this or whatever. We may think so many things, but we shouldn't be an illusion and think that we have not, because devotees that are actually, we can see that there's great devotees who have given everything to Srila Prabhupada's mission, who have given everything to their spiritual masters, who have surrendered in so many unlimited degrees. And, they may not be able to quote so many slokas or, whatever, have the whole Bhagavad Gita memorized or different things, but they have the right attitude and proper mood of pure devotional service of trying to give everything to Srila Prabhupada, to their spiritual master, and serve all the devotees humbly. So we can learn from that, because that is the embodiment of pure devotional service. We have the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. So we can read the books and things, and we may have a confusion about how is that actually implemented. But then we can see those devotees that are the embodiment of pure devotional service. And then we see, this is how we serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what it means not to show the back to the deity. We may think, just like I read in the books so many times, but I was still showing my back to the deity. I was repeatedly instructed not to. But then, we think, okay, I'm not showing my back to the deity, and then whatever, we're in the temple, and then we just turn around and back to the deity. But then the great devotees and Vaishnavas show us that, walk to the edge of the temple, or walk out of the temple, walking backwards or something like that. And they show the mood to honor prasadam, that this is non-different from Krishna. Just like we hear about Jayananda Thakur, and every time he would take prasadam, he would say, well, this is the best, it's better and better. So we see these pure devotees and how they act and how they speak, and just, and then they talk about book distribution and how there's unlimited scope for that. And then they go in the kitchen and they cook unlimited preps for Krishna. And they engage in so many different avenues of devotional service, working endlessly, so hard, just like it was in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. It's just, and he was saying, disciples should chant 64 rounds. So one devotee was saying, well, I don't really see anybody chanting 64 rounds. And he was saying, well, I see everybody's chanting 64 rounds. And they were saying, what is that? Then they understood that they're all engaged in devotional service. So we have to have that vision and get that instruction and see. But we shouldn't be so blind also, because we have to see the actual character. Not that someone, we think, someone's engaged in pure devotional service, but at the same time, they're watching, sports and movies and, going to, McDonald's and ordering from the vegetarian menu or something like that. No, that's not pure devotional service. But we have to see the proper attitude, and they're following the proper standard. But they're giving everything, and they're working so hard. And so we see that, and that inspires us. And that teaches us how to be a devotee. So we can learn from everybody if we have the proper attitude. And there's always more to learn too, because the service of Krishna is unlimited, and it just keeps getting better and better and bigger and bigger. And the devotees always want to serve Krishna, and they want to do it in a different way. Not in a different way in the sense of doing something different, but for the pleasure, for the variegativeness, because spiritual life is full of variety. Unlimited things can be said about all these different things. So that guru-disciple relationship is there. And so the guru, and I'm speaking guru in a loose term, shiksha guru, diksha guru, seniors, elders, in that sense, even juniors can show us and instruct us how to be a better devotee in Krishna consciousness. And so that knowledge, it's important. And Krishna gives that knowledge. And so we have to be intelligent and receive instructions, but also discriminate, just like it was being mentioned that, we receive instructions from devotees, but we may get bad instructions. So we have to be intelligent also. And we have to speak and deliberate. Sometimes there may be some instruction or some advice, and there may be some contemplation of thinking, is this proper? Is this proper? Is that proper? Am I situated on this? Can I execute this? We have to there has to be some discussion. So, but if we have the right mentality and the right attitude, and we always endeavoring to give ourselves fully to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas and the Srimad Bhagavatam, if we're always in that mood and we're praying in that way, Krishna will surely help us, because that's Krishna's desire. And if we understand what Krishna's desire is, then we understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then we understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, then we can speak it properly, and we can hear it properly, and then it all ties in together and it makes sense about what is going on and what's being mentioned in this purport. That this is the whole point. So the Varnas and Ashrams are there to make life easy materially so that one can focus on the spiritual aspect. That's the whole point. Not that one is engaging, 24 hours a day and whatever, maintaining one's body. So we maintain the body as much as needed, but devote time to hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to growing food for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to growing flowers for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to making flower garlands, to cleaning his temple, to speaking the knowledge and helping others to understand Krishna, to glorify Krishna, to protect devotees from envious people, because in this mentioned Kshatriyas, there's envious people in the world who they may want to harm devotees, so like that way devotees can be protected. So the whole central point is just Krishna, 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 hey. Just like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was he was teaching this grammar class, but then then he started just explaining everything in relation to Krishna, all the different avenues and things like that, or the rules. And so anyways, they thought he went crazy. And they were getting annoyed with him. And at one point, I think he went and tried to hit one of the students. And then they got really mad with him at that point. And so he took sannyas. But he was explaining everything in relation to Krishna. So, yeah, and the acharyas, they speak like that too. And we see that Atmarama verse, that Lord Chaitanya was able to explain it in 64 ways in relationship to Krishna. So, in the material world, if you just go down material life, you'll become crazy, materially speaking. You just become insane, and then whatever. And then in Kali Yuga, whatever. And then you may be socially insane, that you're insane, but you're very composed nicely and put together. You have a nice suit and tie, and you're nicely insane. You speak very nicely, you go and work your job, but how are you insane? Because you think the point of life is sense gratification and there's no God. But better to be insane for the process of Krishna consciousness, to be insane for the spiritual master, to be in that degree. But there, of course, there's guidance and there's things like that. We don't want to be too crazy in Krishna consciousness that we go out and distribute books and we're just wild and jumping on the cars and things like that. And, jumping on the, what is this? I forget what it's called. Anyways, it's probably a term for it. But in the grocery store, they have that thing that you put the groceries on and we just start jumping on it. And everybody chant Hare Krishna, something like that. We may not do that. And we see that Srila Prabhupada never did that. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur never did that. And maybe some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples did like that. some wild things like that. But we should follow, and we see that most devotees, they follow the social rules and norms and things to preach Krishna consciousness. But but we should eternally be crazy about Krishna and insane. If someone tells us, don't practice Krishna consciousness and things like that and whatever, and be like, well, I'm crazy for the spiritual master and Krishna. I can never let it go. So that should be the mood. So all the devotees and all the Vaishnavas are engaged 100% in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's Vrindavan, that's the spiritual world. And so Srila Prabhupada created so many dhams, so many avenues where his, so many spiritual hubs where his instructions are being carried out and followed. So all it simply is a matter of having the proper vision, the proper attitude, and following the process of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness works. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And so we should just give ourselves to it fully. And that's what this is all about, is just giving ourselves fully to the process of Krishna consciousness. And there are examples of people who gave themselves fully to the process of Krishna consciousness. Bali Maharaj gave himself fully, and he lost everything. He lost, what to speak of, losing, whatever. Sometimes we come to Krishna consciousness, we lose a couple things, whatever. We lose, our horrible girlfriend, or we lose a couple $100 or a car or something like that, or whatever. Or our family doesn't like us. He had the whole universe, and he lost that. But he gave everything to Krishna, and Krishna gave everything to him. So if we give everything to Krishna, Krishna will give everything to us. Krishna will give himself to us. And so we should have that faith, we should have that determination, and we keep hearing and going and carrying on. And if we don't have that full faith and determination, we should pray to Krishna for it. And if we just have a little bit of that inkling or attraction, Krishna will help us fan that. So Hare Krishna. If there's any questions or comments about anything, we can start now. Got a call coming in. Hare Krishna. He can't hear you.
So,
Okay, yeah.
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Speak on the phone. Try again.
Hare Krishna.
There you go.
Okay. In the beginning of the class, you were talking about the communists. They want only one class,
Yeah.
everyone to be equal. But it's not possible in this age. But in Satya Yuga, it's possible. And there's only one ashram, and there's the Paramahamsa ashram.
Yeah. Yeah, Prabhupada.
So
Yeah, I was mentioning that, but then it seems like in such a yuga that there are different classes though, like with Dhruva Maharaj. That's what I've thought. I've read that, but then I've just thought about it, and it just because you have Dhruva Maharaj, right? He's claimly says he's a Kshatriya.
Is that in Satya Yuga? Dhruva Maharaj in
Yeah,
Satya
for
Yuga?
sure that's in such a yuga. I've read that. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to, thank you for clarifying that. And I was also wanting to know, that you're giving this example of how our body could function without a leg, and our body could function without hands, but it can't function without a head or a stomach, right?
No, I was saying that it can't function without a stomach, but it seems I've never heard of anybody without a stomach. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I completely see what you're saying. So my question is, could a society function without Shudras and Kshatriyas, but would not be able to function without Vaishyas and Brahmanas?
It seems like it would be difficult. I mean,
But it could function.
Yeah, I mean, society functions without Brahmanas, but it's difficult, Srila Prabhupada said that the Western civilization is like a Vaishya Shudra society.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like it's all those elements are needed in order for society to function perfectly. Everybody may be a Paramahamsa, just like in Ayodhya, but everybody has their duties to perform so that, for the pleasure of Sri Ram.
Right. Okay, bro. Yeah, that was just my question. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Y'all have anything? Okay. All right, bro.
Okay. All right, Nick.
Hare Krishna. To that same point, you mentioned comedy. I also want to make a point. Prabhupada in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita, he does actually advocate for spiritual communism.
Yeah.
And he was saying that let there be one religion, one mantra, one
Yeah.
Hare Krishna mantra in Bhagavad Gita. But then in the same token, Prabhupada says that whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jew, whatever, just hear, translate the wisdom. So my question is it possible to become Krishna conscious through other religious systems or lower religious principles?
Yeah, that's kind of like a common question. So, it's possible to become God conscious at some level, but if you're eating meat, I mean, it's a simple activity, and you can only come up to a certain level of God realization. Because if you're eating meat, then that means you have the basic misconception that this whatever individual I'm eating, this animal that I'm eating, is that I'm not harming them or whatever. So the property of himsa isn't even followed, which is not even like, I mean, it's a religious principle, but it's not like the highest form of like religion. So, and also too, I mean, one has to also come into the platform of understanding who the personality of Godhead. And most of these religions don't have any idea of a personal form of God. They have an idea, but it's they're not any specifics,
Right, but within, I remember reading that within Varnashram Dharma, I think it mentioned that Sudras are actually allowed to eat meat. It's only like Brahmanas.
There's rule for it.
Yeah.
But it's a concession. A concession means that it's not proper, but it's giving some allowance for people that have material attachments. So a concession means that I have a material attachment, I'm not purified of it yet, but I'll engage in this activity to get purified of it, to give it up ultimately. The Shastras recommend that. That's marriage is a concession. Drinking wine at certain sacrifices, eating meat, and then gambling. There's concessions like that, but they're not like they don't constitute the highest form of religion.
So essentially, unless you're like a part of the higher class, you can't be Krishna conscious.
You can be a Sudra and be Krishna conscious. You have to be you're guided properly. That's the thing. It has to be proper guidance and instruction about what one's doing and how he's doing it for like Krishna. You know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for instance, in Bhakti Saraswati Thakur, I believe, materially speaking, they were born like their caste was like Sudra caste or something. So are they not like Paramahamsas because they were born in Sudra caste or whatever? I mean, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was like a judge, so you know therefore he's a judge and he's doing this and that, and he's not on the streets like shooting books, so whatever, he's not a Paramahamsa. No, that's not true. So it's what one is like doing for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's like that. I mean, of course they came down, the Nityasiddhas, and they came down to teach, and they were pure, from the get-go he was a purely self-realized soul, even when he was like not so-called a Vaishnava. But a Vaishnava, is Srila Prabhupada taught, he's above Varna and Ashram, and then they may accept that just to teach. So one can be Sudra, Sudra, what is it? Sudra, what has it start? Yea, Krishna Tattva say Guru Hoy. Kiva Nashi Sudra Kino. So whether anyone could be a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. One has to know the science, that's the main thing. Okay. I'm gonna ask somebody, do you have any questions? Because we usually skip on that, and I'll come back to you. Any questions from one of you, sir? Okay. All right, Robin,
Yeah, there was I didn't get to hear Nick's question. What was Nick's question?
You're just asking, anyway, if you can become perfect in other religious paths that eat meat and things like that.
Not a religious path.
Yeah.
Okay. You were asking that you were saying like you don't remember any time that there was given like any where involved like in the scriptures where there was like a strike. Mother Earth, Bhumi, she had strike where Prince Maharaj, I think was Prince, I'm not sure which one of the kings, they went after her because she wasn't producing.
Yeah.
She had strike, and then also, you also, I mean, depends on how you look at it, you have the gopis, you have the pastime of the gopis.
Yeah.
So, one other thing I wanted to say, this reminded me of chapter 15, text 15 in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, I'm seeking everyone's heart, for me to remembrance, knowledge, forgetfulness. Of all the Vedas, or by all the Vedas, unto thee known. So everything that's there, he's saying, even him himself is saying, unto thee known. And he said, I'm the compiler of the Vedas, I'm the compiler of the Vedanta, I'm the knower of the Vedas. So ultimately you see that he's telling you that he's to be known for this. Sometimes we get caught up with all these different things in which we have to do brahmanas, kshatriyas, and forget to serve Krishna.
Yeah. Johnny. Oh, a couple questions. You have something down there? I saw your hand.
Yeah. I was wondering, when it comes to like varnas, like, is that, I know like one way to determine like someone's nature, I've seen like, heard that you, when the child's born, you like put a book and like different things in front of them.
Oh,
See
yeah,
if they
those are some scholars.
But what about like, in general, like, do you determine it on your own or are you led properly? Because, like in society, we see everybody wants to be like the next big thing, big rapper, president.
Yeah.
Or like even maybe in the devotee community, everybody wants to be like the brahmana, like I want to like give class and this and that, but like maybe you're just not, that's not what you're cut for. So how do you like determine it? Is it like self-determined or people, I don't know, guide you?
So from what I've heard, because I haven't like seen it all yet. So in Nandagram and one of Bhakti Maharaj's Swami's projects in Gujarat. So I've heard that they have the kids there and they're training them and growing them up, and then they kind of naturally fall into different things. Like some of the kids like to take care of cows, some of the kids like to do like field work and like whatever, grow and kind of like that. They kind of like naturally are drawn to things at a young age, and they're inspired by that. And then some of the kids, usually very few, are like have the capacity to actually sit down and study the Shastra. Because it's not like, oh, I'm a Brahmin, I like to give class. I mean, it's like there's a lot more to it than just like sit down and give a class and like get on an ego trip. So you actually have to like be able to like read the Shastra. I was meant to talk about Brahmins a little bit, but I forgot. But anyways, so you actually have to be like Brahmins would study like all day. And it's like, not just like Robert said, like read my books 1 hour, 2 hours, that's like bare minimum. I mean, they'd be like absorbed all day and like, like even too, like just like, like Jyotish, like, whatever, people that like grow up in that. I mean, like from like 5 years old to be like memorizing all these slokas and different things like that. And they have like capacity to like remember. So it's like, like the person has some inclination, they also have like capacity to actually do the work. Someone wants to like go out in the field and like work hard and like dig some holes, but it's like they can't lift a shovel. It's like they ain't cut out for like field work. Like obviously they don't have they may like be attracted to that, but they don't have the karma for that. So it's like guna karma. And generally also too, like if one has that karma to be whatever barber, then he would be born like in a family of barbers, and he would just kind of like learn that naturally. It's kind of like a short answer. So it's. Okay, we'll end it till about this point, different question. Yeah, you can ask it on.
So like, I've read, it kind of goes along, like, I've read that Srila Prabhupada said like everybody would be brahmanas, and then the brahmanas would like, and then when it was like needed, a brahmana would like take the position of a Vaishya.
Yeah.
So like, how does that work?
So yeah, Srila Prabhupada, I think he was referring mainly to like Vaishnavas. So initially, and like getting things rolling as far as Varna Ashram goes, I mean, I don't know, we'll have to see how like things play out if all these things happen in our life. So Prabhupada was referring to this Varna Ashram college, and so he was explaining that like someone may be a Vaishnava, or a Brahmin or something like that, but they learn the science of like, Vaishya, of like whatever, planting certain crops and watering them, and then also how to take care of cows and all those different things. So he's a Brahmin, he's studied in the scripture, he has that attraction, that inclination. But to help others come up also engage in the service to Krishna, he teaches them that science so that they can do their material duties and be satisfied and take care of the material things so that they can be peaceful and hear like the transcendental knowledge and be Krishna conscious in their activities. So he teaches that. Just like, who was that? His name's Dronacharya. Dronacharya taught the Pandavas the art of military science, and he was a Brahmin. So, I mean, he knew the science of killing very well, but he was a Brahmin. So Brahmins can do that, and it's also mentioned in the Shastra that they can accept these different professions and things like that and teach it to others, and that's dharmic for them. There's intricacies in that. Okay, so we'll stop there.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam.